I've heard that you're a teacher, right?
Yes, I am.
So, what's your teaching style like?
Well, I pay a lot of attention to the students' needs, first of all, of course, their level. And I also pay a lot of attention to their how they learn languages, because I try to include in my lessons, for example, visual aids. I try to include movement as well for those who learn by doing. Of course, there is always something that could be listening. If it's listening plus the image, much better. And I try to include, if possible, all of the senses.
All of the senses?
Yes, well,
okay, now I'm intrigued.
Not all of the senses. Probably, well, you can even ask your students to touch things. Especially when you are teaching very concrete vocabulary. For instance, if you work about certain objects, you can put all these objects in a bag, and they can just try to guess what the object is. So there you're using touch. Okay, so I like that.
I like that. I'm a kinetic learner myself. I like to have movement and touch to actually absorb things. So that's like a great style, actually.
That works a lot, especially for elementary students, beginner students. When you teach very concrete things, it's a bit different when you are teaching more advanced students, because the vocabulary is more abstract.
Yes, it's difficult to get advanced grammar structures into us.
Yes, but you can. You can. What about you? How would you define yourself as a teacher?
I would say I'm adaptable depending on what the student needs. But I find very often that where people struggle is speaking and comprehension. And very often that's the one thing they cannot get from a book or through YouTube or anything like this, is how to actually converse with somebody. And there's a lot of things that people make errors with. And one of them is that English is very legato. It's very smooth. It keeps going one word to the next. It doesn't stop. It's not staccato, it's legato. And this can be hard for people to get used to doing this, to make the sounds with their mouth not stopping. And if you can't make these sounds, you're not going to understand them when you hear them.
Absolutely. Well, I make a point in my classes about pronunciation, and I teach them, for example, we'll listen to something and I tell them, well, how many words were there in the sentence? And in general, if they're beginners especially, they are going to say, well, that sounded like a word. So then you write the word and you teach them, well, if you've got a vowel at the end of a word, for example, and then you have a consonant, you need to make that a word. And these things, I think that they need to learn them when they are elementary students, little by little.
It's hard to pick it up. If someone
hard
says
to pick
to
it up, but if they don't become aware that these things are like, they are, it's going to be much more difficult. Much more difficult.
Like very often, like you find people, they've learned the conditionals. They've learned the official rule, the first, the second, the third conditional, but then they can't pick out the third conditional because no one is saying, if she had told me, I would have gone. If she told me, I would have gone.
Exactly. When I make a point there, that they need to learn how to say, instead of if I had known, if I'd known,
yes,
I wouldn't have, okay? That's very important. So they're going to speak more fluently, and if they listen to people speaking, they're going to be able to pick it up. So, Jasmine, tell me, easy techniques to learn English.
I cannot recommend enough singing. Karaoke. Have the lyrics to a song and sing along with it. Try to make the same sound as the artist does. Not all of them are perfect, but in general, it will be quite different from you would move your own mouth in your native language. And this is a great technique if you don't have like a teacher to learn a better pronunciation and comprehension.
Absolutely.
How about you?
Absolutely. You need to listen to a lot of English in order to be able to copy it. That's something very, very important. For example, I tell my students that they could watch their favorite series or movie, maybe, but in general they tend to do this, and they say, I watched the whole episode and it was I couldn't understand, and I always tell them, well, that's okay for general comprehension, but not if you're trying to learn vocabulary. If you're trying to learn vocabulary, I think it's much better to take a 2 minute, for example, 2 minutes from the video and listen to it the first time to get the general idea. Then the second time you could stop when you think that there is an interesting word, look it up in the dictionary if you need to do that, and then listen to it again. Try to work the sounds, how they are connected to each other as well, and of course vocabulary. It's very difficult to learn good vocabulary in a textbook, so you need to go and look for this vocabulary. And where are you're going to find it? Either films, series, I think so, or podcasts on the internet, so more everyday language.
And I think another important thing to mention as well is it's not a competition. So a lot of people, they feel like under pressure to choose like harder texts or series or something maybe a bit more highbrow or a bit more complex. There's nothing wrong with going back to Disney or Harry Potter, or just starting with something you knew as a child. Yes. And quite often that's made for easy comprehension. You don't need to know everything. Absolutely. And that can help with learning a lot.
Yes. For example, the Beatles. Very easy to understand.
Yes.
Very good. Pronunciation, clear. I would advise my maybe beginner students, pre-intermediate or even intermediate students to go there and try to understand better. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I've been trying to get in shape, but I haven't been having much success. Do you have any advice?
Well, losing weight is not easy. You need to be really determined, I think. First of all, of course, you need to exercise. Is there anything you like doing?
Well, last week I tried to go running, but it was very tiring, and then I only did it 2 days in a row.
I think a lot of people says that you need to pass through at least the first week of exercising to then get into the routine. So maybe you should try to be more determined in doing your sport, or maybe try something different. So maybe you don't like running. Do you like dancing?
I do like dancing, actually. Every now and then, maybe once a month, I go dancing with a friend. Perhaps I could start going more often.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Maybe start with once a week instead of once a month. But how about your diet? Do you eat well? Do you eat healthy food?
I try to eat all of my vegetables. But I have some difficulty when I'm going to eat out if I have to go to work, and it can be hard to prepare a healthy meal.
Well, I think for me it's easier actually to eat and prepare food when I go to work, because I can shop and you can look at different recipes and buy the food purposely for a certain recipe. While when I go out and I go to a restaurant maybe with friends, well, you don't have maybe as much choice. If you go, you might find a lot of people want to eat pizza.
A lot of junk food.
A lot of junk food, yes.
Do you take the car to work, or do you usually walk there or take a bike?
I walk there. I walk to work, and that's a good exercise. Like if you could begin walking or cycling to work, that would be a start to help you losing weight.
I think I will take that advice. I usually take the car to work.
Do you cook every day?
I only make breakfast and then I prepare dinner. When I'm at work, I go out for lunch. So that not as often, but I try to prepare dinner every day.
Well, it's a good idea for losing weight to eat a lot of vegetables. Maybe if you don't like them like just steamed, it could be a good idea to prepare some different recipes. There are Indian recipes and Thai recipes. They are very, very tasty because you add spices, but they're very healthy because you don't use a lot of oil or butter.